Hello everyone, a very good morning to all. So in this video, we are starting with the carbides, which are the special compounds of group 14. This is the last video out of your P block 1, in which we have discussed about the two groups, majorly two groups, that is group 13 and group 14. Group 13 is the boron family and group 13 is the carbon, group 14 is the carbon family. So now coming to carbides. So carbon combines with many electropositive elements when heated at high temperature to give the corresponding carbides. Carbides are those compounds where carbon acts as the anionic part. So these are the compounds of carbon with which are made with more electropositive elements than itself. So to prepare carbides, we can use the direct combination method of carbon and other elements above 2000 degrees Celsius. So temperature should be high. That is, here the temperature is above 2000 degrees Celsius. So next method is we can treat metal oxides with carbon at high temperature. So we can treat metal and metal oxides with carbon at high temperatures. Also, reaction of heated metal with gaseous hydrocarbons can also give us carbides. Also, the carbides can be prepared from acetylene with electropositive elements in the presence of liquid ammonia as solvent. So based upon the bonding, these carbides can be classified into three types, sorry. First one is salt-like or ionic carbides, where ionic bonding is present. Second one is covalent carbides, as the name indicates, covalent bonding must be there. In the third one is interstitial carbides. So the first category is ionic carbides. The ionic carbides are formed with the elements or the metals, we can say metals of group 1 and group 2 and group 13, which are more electropositive than the group 14, majorly the carbon. So preparation is simple. We have already discussed that we have to heat metal oxide or their hydrides with carbon in the presence of electric arc, and we'll get the corresponding carbides. So this is how we do it. So this is how we prepare the ionic carbides. So now coming to the properties of ionic carbides, these ionic carbides undergo hydrolysis. As they are ionic, they're easily hydrolyzed by water or dilute acids at ordinary temperatures, and they will give us corresponding hydrocarbons. Now, based upon the type of hydrocarbon formed after the hydrolysis of ionic carbides, these are further categorized into three types. So first one is methanides. These are the three types here we have shown based upon the anions. If we get upon hydrolysis, if we get methane, the category is going to be methanide. Now upon hydrolysis, if we get acetylene, that is CH2, then the corresponding CH triple bond CH, the corresponding hydride, the corresponding category is going to be acetylite. And the third category is if we get this anion, that is C3,4 negative, that is allyline. The category is going to be allylites. So coming to the methanides, so the ionic carbides which undergo hydrolysis and give us methane as the byproduct. So these carbides are going to be called as methanides because the corresponding anion in case of methane is C4 negative. So the two examples are beryllium carbide, this is brick red solid, and second is aluminium carbide, that's Al4C3. This is pale yellow crystalline form. So the preparation of Be2C, that is beryllium carbide, is done by treating beryllium oxide with carbon at 2000 degrees Celsius. We'll get this Be2C. This is an ionic compound with antifluoride types of structure. We have already done the antifluoride structure, that is Na2O type structure. So this beryllium carbide, when heated above 2100 degrees Celsius, it decomposes to graphite. This is one of the important reaction for beryllium carbides, and this undergo hydrolysis with 4 water molecules. It will give us beryllium hydroxide and corresponding methane molecule. That is why, because it generates methane upon hydrolysis, that is why it is called as methanide. Similarly, this Al4C3, that is aluminium carbide, which gives pale yellow crystals. This is prepared directly from the treatment of aluminium metal with carbon. Will get Al4C3. This upon hydrolysis get aluminium hydroxide and the corresponding methane. That is why it is also a methanide. Next category is acetylides. So the compounds are CH triple bond CH. This is the type of compound that is C2H2. Which is obtained upon the hydrolysis of these kind of hydrolysis. This type of carbides are obtained from the metals of group 1, group 2, coinage metals, and some of the transition metals, that is zinc, cadmium, and some of the lanthanides. So these are the two examples, that is calcium carbide and magnesium carbide. So this is the preparation for calcium carbide, which upon hydrolysis gave us acetylene and calcium hydroxide. Also, this is one of the important reaction of calcium carbide, which upon treating it with nitrogen gas will get the formation of CaNCN, which is having an important use in the production of so this is calcium cyanamide. So this is an important fertilizer. So calcium carbide is an important raw material for the formation of calcium cyanamide. So next category is allylides. It is the anionic part is C3 whole 4 negative. So this is one of the corresponding example of carbide is Mg2C3. So the upon hydrolysis it will give us allyline. So that is why these are called as allylides, and this is the one of the category of ionic carbides. So this was all about ionic carbides. Next we have covalent carbides. So covalent carbides are formed with elements having electronegativity comparable to that of carbon. Thus, these makes covalent bonds because both the atoms which are making one, they're having comparable electronegativity. So they will, instead of exchanging the electrons, what they will do, they will share the electron cloud and they will form covalent bonds in between them. So they are called as covalent carbides. The examples are boron carbide and silicon carbide. Silicon carbide is also called as carborundum. This is a common name for silicon carbide. So how this is prepared? This is prepared by the treatment of silica, that is SiO2 with carbon, in the presence of high temperature, at high temperature and electric furnace. These are the two important things which are to be present in this reaction. But for memorizing purpose, for writing the preparation of silicon carbide, you can just memorize the temperature, which is again in the range of above 2000, which is for the preparation of all the hydrides. This is a common temperature. And also we have to treat the corresponding oxide in the presence of carbon and at high temperature. So here electric discharges also, this is done in the presence of electric furnace. So we'll get the formation of silicon carbide. So this silicon carbide is pure, is crystal. This in pure form it is colorless, crystalline solid. When it is impure, it can be yellow, green, or blue. So this silicon carbide is as hard as diamond. So it is used as abrasive, and it is highly unreactive even at high temperatures. So also it dissolves in sodium hydroxide in the presence of oxygen. So this is an important reaction where it is shown dissolving in NaOH to give the corresponding give the formation of sodium silicate and sodium carbonate. So coming to the structure of silicon carbide, this is having three-dimensional structure with array of silicon and carbon, which are surrounded by, if we talk about carbon is surrounded by tetrahedrally by 4 silicon atoms, and each silicon atom is surrounded tetrahedrally by 4 carbon atoms. Now coming to boron carbide is having formula B4C. So this is again a covalent carbide. This is also extremely hard. It is used as abrasive. So the preparation is the treatment of the corresponding oxide with carbon at high temperature. Here the temperature which has been taken is 1600 degrees Celsius. Will get the formation of B4C. So this B4C is harder than silicon carbide. This is used as shield against radiations, and this is another preparation is for the fibrous form of this boron carbide. This fibrous form is important because it is used for the preparation of bulletproof clothing. This is an important material used in bulletproof clothing. So this preparation is the treating of BCl3 with hydrogen in the presence of carbon. So this is how we obtain fibers of B4C, that is boron carbide. Next we have interstitial carbide. Now interstitial carbide, as the name indicates, this in this carbides, the carbon atoms are going to be present in the lattice or in the interstitial sites of the lattice of corresponding metal. So for this kind of for the formation of this kind of carbides, the size of the metal should be big enough to have interstitial sites big sized to accommodate carbon into them. So these can be prepared by direct combination or by the reduction with carbon of the corresponding oxides at high temperature, that is around 2000 degrees Celsius. So examples are all the transition metals, as we have written these transition metals, which are having radii greater than 1.35 angstrom. will form such carbides. The common formula is going to be either MC or M2C. So these carbides are infusible and melt at very high temperature, that is 3000 to 4000 degrees Celsius. These are extremely hard and chemically inert, so are used as high speed cutting tools. So the other transition metals which are having atomic radii of less than 1.35 angstrom, such as chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, and nickel. So these will form interstitial carbides. These will have distorted structure because now the interstitial sites are not large enough to accommodate carbon. So they will have to distort their structure a bit to accommodate carbon into their interstitial sites. So these metals which are having atomic radii of 1.35 angstrom, they will have to make some adjustments to accommodate carbon in their interstitial sites to generate interstitial carbides. So these ones are quite reactive, and because of their instability due to the distorted structure, these ones are quite reactive and are easily hydrolyzed to corresponding hydrocarbons. Next important compound of carbon is fluorocarbons. So these are the fluoroderivatives of hydrocarbons. Substitution of hydrogen by fluorine atom is done to generate fluorocarbons. So fluorination, these for the synthesis of fluorocarbons, we can synthesize them by the direct fluorination of carbon, or which is a highly exothermic reaction. So this is generally not preferred. So to control these reactions, generally the fluorination is done in the presence of an inert gas, that is nitrogen, which is the most commonly used inert gas, which slows down the reaction, which controls the exothermic nature, and which will give us controlled fluorination. Also, these reactions can be carried out in dark, because in light these reactions will be triggered to get exothermic. So when these are performed in dark, these are performed in controlled way. Also, these can be performed using some inert solvent. Also, the fluorination can be done using inorganic fluorides, in which fluorination happens in a controlled way. So the inorganic fluorides which can be used as cobalt fluoride and antimony fluoride. So this is the hydrocarbon we have treated with COF3, which is a fluorinating agent, and we'll get the formation of corresponding fluorocarbon. So from this method, we can generate completely fluorinated alkanes, and the completely fluorinated alkanes, they have the other name, they are called as perfluorocompounds of carbon. So this is the chloroform. We are treating it with SbF3, we'll get the formation of CHCl, F2, treated at 80 degrees Celsius, we'll get tetrafluoroethylene. Also, for the formation of freons, these are one of the category of fluorocarbons. These are very important. So these are prepared from CCl4 by the fluorination of CCl4 using the antimony compound itself. This the main freon which is used is CF2Cl2, which is dichloro-difluoromethane. So it is prepared by the treatment of CCl4 with HF in the presence of this catalyst. So we'll get the corresponding chlorofluorocarbons. So this is the important reaction, and this is important compound which is used as refrigerant and used in aerosol propellants. So next, if we use this tetrafluoroethylene and we polymerize it at high pressure, we'll get the formation of Teflon, which is also an important material which is used for coating kitchenwares, kitchen pans, to have non-stick type of material. So now coming to the properties of fluorocarbons, these are dense, colorless, non-toxic liquids. They have faint, unpleasant odor. They are low boiling, low viscosity is there. They are non-inflammable, thermally stable, chemically inert. So because of these properties, because of their chemical inertness, now their chemical inertness is, first point is the chemical inertness is because of the strength of this CF bond. Now if we look at the bond energies of this CF bond is having highest bond energy out of CF, CCl and CH. So that is why these chlorofluorocarbons, that is CF bond compounds, are very stable. Now coming to the uses, this CF2Cl2, this is but one of the chlorofluorocarbon which is used as coolant in refrigerators, ACs, and as aerosol propellants. Next is Teflon, which is a polymer generated out of the polymerization of tetrafluoroethene. So this is used for coating pans in kitchen. So this is used for the making of apparatus for handling various reactive chemicals. Also, the chlorofluorocarbons on polymerization, they will give us some kind of oils, greases, waxes, which are called as fluorolubes, which are used as important material as heat transfer media. So these are the applications of some of the applications of chlorofluorocarbons. So that is it for the fluorocarbons. Next we have silicates. Silicates are one of the important class of compounds of silicon. So the general formula is basic building unit of silicates is SiO4, 4 negative. So large percentage of Earth's crust, rocks, soils, clays, sands, etc. consist of silicate minerals, and in general we call them silica. So in all, we can say that all the silicates involve the presence of SiO bond, with SiO single bond. Now these silicates are of two types, which are having SiO single bond at terminal position, and others are having it at as bridging position, where oxygen is present as bridge. So this silicon is having electronegatividity of 1.8, oxygen is having electronegatividity of 3.5. Now if we take the electronegatividity difference, this E and D is electronegatividity difference between the two elements is 1.7. This electronegatividity difference of 1.7 is quite interesting because it suggests that the bond between SiO, the electronegatividity difference suggests that this bond is 50% ionic and 50% covalent. Also, if we calculate the radius ratio of these two ions, if we consider it as an ionic compound, the radius ratio comes out to be 0.30, which suggests the coordination number to be based upon the radius ratio rule. The coordination number comes out to be 4. We can say each silicon is tetrahedrally bonded to 4 oxygens, or we can say 4 oxide ions with negative charge on each. So this is the kind of structure where silicon is sp3 hybridized. It is bonded to 4 oxide ions with negative charge on each. So this is the representation of SiO4, 4 negative, which is the repeating unit for silicates, basic unit of silicates. This is the another representation where 3 oxide ions are drawn at the corners of an equilateral triangle, and one oxygen is exactly at the back of silicon. So this is how this is represented. Now coming to the types of silicates, based upon the bonding and linkage of SiO4, 4 negative units, the silicates may be classified into the following types. First one is orthosilicate. Orthosilicates are having discrete units of SiO4, 4 negative. So basic unit is going to be SiO4, 4 negative. So based upon the coordination number, these orthosilicates are of 3 types. They are having compounds with coordination number of 4, coordination number of 6, coordination number of 8. These are the examples of each category. Next is pyrosilicate, where one of the corners of the equilateral triangle, one of the corner oxygen is shared between 2. So 2 units of SiO4, 4 negative are joined together, and the overall formula becomes Si2O76 negative. If we count the number of oxygens and silicon by combining the 2 units, making one oxygen as common and removing its negative charge, will get Si2O76 negative, which represent the pyrosilicates. These are the 2 examples of pyrosilicates. Next we have cyclic silicates. In case of cyclic silicates, 2 types of structures are obtained. The 3 SiO4, 4 negative units combine in such a manner, and 6 can combine to give the cyclic silicates. Whenever there is a combination of 3 units, so you can see that this is a hexagon type of structure, and each alternate positions silicons are there, alternate positions oxygens are there. So on the ring, 3 oxygens are there and 3 silicons are there. Those silicons are there which are having oxide ion behind them. So this is how this is represented. Now if we count the number of silicons and oxygens here, we'll get the general formula to be the repeating unit to be, or we can say the primary unit is Si3O9 6 negative, and the primary unit, which if we take out the 3 common out of it, it will become SiO3 2 negative. And here for 6 where 6 units are combined, the unit becomes Si6O18 12 negative. Only the oxygens which are being shared, they will not have negative charge now. Only the oxygens which are not being shared, they are having the negative charge. These are the examples of both types of silicates of this cyclic silicates. Next we have chain silicates. In chain silicates we have 2 types, single chain and double chain. In case of single chain, these triangular units are present at alternate positions. They are having the on this line, they are sharing their base, and one triangle is facing downward, other triangle is facing upward. So this is the kind of arrangement in case of single chain. The repeating unit is going to be SiO3 2 negative N, because long chain is having infinite number of oxygens or infinite number of repeating unit, which is N. So for the double chain, there is the two single chain strands which are joined from the corners. These corners, we have the other layer which is present at, these are the corners. Upper layer there is one single layer, and above there is one single chain, and downward there is one single chain. These are two combined, so becomes the double chain silicon. So the repeating unit is this one. So this is the repeating unit. So from here, if you count the oxygens and silicons, the repeating unit is going to become this. So these are the examples of single chain and double chain. Next, we have sheet silicates. Here, three corners of the silicate triangles are being shared. This is a two-dimensional structure. So the repeating unit is going to be this. In case of this, there are two silicons, three oxygens, five oxygens. The repeating unit is going to be Si2O5 2 negative. And obviously it represents the infinite structure in infinite network. Next, we have three-dimensional silicates. Now here, in case of three-dimensional silicates, all the oxygens are going to be shared. So there will be no negative charge. The repeating unit is going to be SiO2N. So the example is cryptobelite. So now coming to the zeolites, this is the important class of three-dimensional. This is the next category of silicates, which is aluminosilicates. They are having open cage-like structure with large voids or channels. They are having large voids or channels. So in their voids and channels, they can trap the small molecules like water molecules, gas molecules. So they are having cavities. So these are used as molecular sieves, or also these can be used as, these act as neutral ion exchangers. Also, these can be used as water softeners. They are available under the name permuted water softeners, or are the sodium zeolites. So what they do is they will take up hard water ions, that is calcium ions, and they will release sodium ions which is present with them. So this is the kind of formula of sodium zeolite. So these two zeolites are used for water softening. So these can be retreated by these can be recovered. Once the treatment of water is done, we have exchanged all the calcium ions. We have taken all the calcium ions and replaced them with sodium. So further, now to regenerate the zeolite, this sodium zeolite, what we will do is we'll treat this treated sodium zeolite with brine solution, which will again revive the sodium ions into it, and this can be used again for water softening. So this is all about the silicates, carbides, and other compounds of carbon family. These are the important compounds of group 14. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day. With this, our P block 1 is complete. In the next video, we'll be starting with our next unit, that is P block 2, where we'll be discussing about majorly about three major groups, that is group 16, 17, and 18. No, sorry, we'll be discussing about group 15, 16, and 17. So that is it. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day.